I paid a luxurious honeymoon for my gold sister and her fiancé. After they returned, she asked me to pay for 6 months of rent. I refused, and now my in-laws hates me. I should have known better. From the moment my sister Sophia announced her engagement to Kevin, there was this sinking feeling I couldn't shake. It wasn't that I didn't want her to be happy, I did. But Kevin? The guy is a walking stereotype of the golden boy, who never had to lift a finger in his life. His family treated him like a prince, and frankly, he acted like one. Still, when the wedding came around, I did my part as the supportive brother. I paid for the flowers, the catering, and even covered the extra cost of her wedding dress after she overspent. I chalked it up to sibling duty, especially since Sophia and I didn't have the kind of background where you could just ask mom and dad for help. Growing up in the system, we'd been through too much together for me to turn her down, even when she was pushing boundaries. 2 weeks after the wedding, Sophia calls me. She and Kevin, now officially Mr. and Mrs., were ecstatic. But then she dropped the bomb. We can't afford a honeymoon. I immediately felt the weight of where the conversation was going, but I stayed quiet and let her finish. She went on about how this was a once-in-a-lifetime thing and how they deserved to start their marriage off on the right foot. Then she hit me with, "You're the only one who can help us make this dream come true." Sophia had always been good at making me feel guilty. I hesitated for a moment, but then I gave in. I told myself it wasn't just about her, it was about making sure Kevin stepped up and showed he could support her in the long run. Besides, she was my sister. I'd stepped up for her when we were kids, so why stop now? After some research, I booked them a week at a 5-star resort in the Maldives. The works: ocean view villa, all-inclusive package, private excursions. The flights alone cost a small fortune, but I wanted her to have something she'd never forget. In the end, the trip cost me just under $9,000. It wasn't money I was comfortable throwing around, but I told myself it was worth it. She'd never get an opportunity like this on her own. The funny thing is, even as I hit confirm on the booking, I had this nagging voice in the back of my head saying, "This isn't the end of it." And as it turns out, I was absolutely right. When Sophia and Kevin returned from their honeymoon, I stopped by their house to hear all about it. I figured they'd be beaming with gratitude and raving about the trip of a lifetime. I mean, I'd pulled out all the stops: crystal clear waters, luxury spas, candlelit dinners on the beach. What more could they want? I knocked on their apartment door and Kevin answered, looking like he just rolled out of bed. He gave me a half-hearted, "Hey man," before heading for the couch. Not exactly the enthusiastic response I was expecting. Sophia appeared a moment later, all smiles, and ushered me in. We sat down at the kitchen table and I asked her how it went. Sophia launched into a recap of her week's snorkeling, a sunset cruise, massages. She mentioned how amazing the food was and how the staff treated her like royalty. But then, out of nowhere, she sighed and said, "It's been so amazing, but it just went by too fast. It's a shame you didn't book it for 2 weeks instead of 1. I thought she was joking. I even laughed and said, "Well, maybe next time you can extend it yourself." But Sophia didn't laugh. Instead, she shrugged her shoulders and said, "Yeah, maybe." Kevin, for his part, remained glued to his phone, not even bothering to join in. That was the first red flag. As we sipped tea, the conversation turned to how they were settling into married life. A few months before the wedding, they'd moved into an apartment they could barely afford, even with financial help from Kevin's parents. I nodded politely, but then Sophia suddenly said, "We wanted to talk to you about something." Her tone was serious, and Kevin finally looked up from his phone. His face was unreadable, which was a first because the guy usually wore his emotions like a billboard. Sophia continued, "So we were thinking, since you've already been so generous with the wedding and honeymoon, it would make sense for you to help us out with the rent for a while. Just for 6 months or so. You know, to give us some breathing room." I blinked. For a second, I thought I'd misheard them. They weren't asking, they were telling me. I even repeated it to her, just to be sure. "You're asking me to pay your rent for 6 months?" Sophia nodded like it was the most sensible thing in the world. Yes, just until Kevin finds something more stable. You're the only one that can really help. I stared at her, completely stunned. You're joking, right? I just spent $9,000 on your honeymoon. That's more than all of you make in 3 months. That's when Sophia decided to double down. She started talking about how Kevin was doing his best, but jobs were hard to come by. How her in-laws couldn't help because they were already stretched thin, and how I was in the best position to step up. Kevin, the supposed man of the house, got up and went into another room, leaving Sophia to fight his battle for him. I could feel my blood pressure rising, but I kept my cool. Barely. No, I said flatly. I'm not doing this. I've done enough. How you two live is not my problem anymore. Sophia's face fell, and before she could argue, the door opened and her in-laws walked in. That's when things really went south. Sophia's in-laws' entrance felt oddly timed, as if they'd been waiting outside for their cue. Kevin's mother, Janet, greeted me warmly, oblivious to the tension simmering in the room. Or maybe she just didn't care. His father, Tom, gave me a quick nod before sitting down. I could tell by the look on their faces that they were there to talk. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, how are things, how's work, before Janet got down to business. So Sophia and Kevin mentioned that they talked to you about helping them with their rent, she said, smiling as if this was a routine discussion. I felt my jaw clench. Yes, they did. I told them I wouldn't do it. Janet's smile faltered for half a second, then recovered. Oh, I think you should reconsider, she said. You've been so generous already, and this would just be a little extra help to get her back on her feet. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A little extra help? I just spent $9,000 on their honeymoon. That's not a drop in the bucket to me, Tom chimed in. Well, you're in a position to afford it. They're young, starting out, that's what family does. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What family does? You're literally sitting here asking me to pay your son's rent while you're his parents. Janet bristled. We've done a lot for Kevin. But you don't have children of your own, so maybe you don't understand how hard it is for young couples these days. Oh, I understand just fine, I shot back. What I don't understand is why Kevin, a grown man, can't get a job that pays his rent. Sophia jumped in at this point, desperately trying to save the situation. It's not Kevin's fault. He's been looking for work, but it's just not the right time. And honestly, you've always been the one we could rely on. You have the means, and it's only for a few months. It was like I'd fallen into an alternate reality where everyone had lost their minds. You know what? No. I've done enough. I'm not your personal ATM. If Kevin needs help, he can get a job, any job. There's no shortage of places that are hiring. Hell, construction sites would love to have someone like him. The comment hit a nerve. Janet's tone changed instantly, from sweet to sharp. How dare you talk about my son that way? He's too smart for manual labor. And besides, you're her brother. It's your responsibility to help her when she needs it. I stood up. No, it's not. I'm her brother, not her parent, and certainly not her bank. If you're so concerned, why don't you pay her rent? After all, they're living with you now. The room fell silent. For a moment I thought that might be the end of it, but then Sophia, of all people, decided to throw gasoline on the fire. You've always been selfish, she said. You think you're better than the rest of us just because you have a decent job. But you don't understand what it's like to struggle. That hit a nerve. I looked her dead in the eye. I don't understand? You and I grew up in the same orphanage. Don't you dare act like I had it easy. The difference is that I worked my ass off to get where I am. You could have done the same, but instead you sit here defending a guy who won't even fight his own battles. Kevin chose that moment to re-enter the room, probably because the shouting was getting too loud to ignore. He looked at everyone and then said quietly, I think we should just drop it. Finally, something we could agree on. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Don't bring it up again, I said. You guys can figure it out for yourselves. As I walked out, I heard Janet muttering under her breath about how ungrateful I was. Sophia didn't stop me, but the look on her face as I left made it clear that this wasn't over. And I was right, it wasn't. I thought leaving Sophia's apartment that day would be the end of it. I'd made it clear, I wasn't her safety net. They'd have to figure that out for themselves. But a few days later, the fallout began in ways I hadn't expected. First, my mother called me. I wasn't surprised. Janet probably wasted no time complaining to her about how I had abandoned Sophia and Kevin. What did surprise me was how angry Mom sounded. "She's your sister," she snapped as soon as I picked up the phone. "How can you just leave her like that?" "Mom, are you serious?" I said, already annoyed. "I paid for her wedding flowers, the catering, her dress, and her honeymoon. How much more do I have to do?" "You're missing the point," she said. "This isn't about money, it's about family. Janet told me how dismissive you were when you said Kevin should work construction. That's not support, that's kicking someone when they're down." "Oh, come on. Kevin is not down. He's just lazy." Mom gasped as if I'd just insulted the Pope. "Don't you dare talk about him like that. He's your sister's husband now. You have to show respect." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own mother siding with Janet and Kevin? I bit my tongue though, because arguing with her was like shouting at a brick wall. "I've done enough," I said firmly. "If you care so much, why don't you help them?" She was silent for a moment, then muttered, "You know I don't have that kind of money." Exactly. A few days later, things got even stranger. I came home from work to find an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a handwritten note, no signature, telling me that I should be ashamed of myself for letting my family down. It was vague enough that I couldn't be sure of who wrote it, but the handwriting looked suspiciously like Janet's. I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash, but it didn't stop there. Over the next week I received 3 more notes. One said, "Money isn't everything, try having a heart." Another accused me of being jealous of Kevin because he had real family support. The last one simply said, "You will regret this." By this time, I was pissed. It wasn't just annoying, it was scary. I didn't want to accuse anyone, but I had a feeling that Janet, or even Sophia, was behind it. So I decided to install a small camera above my apartment door, just in case they or someone else decided to escalate. Then came the real shocker. One night, about 2 weeks after the original fight, I got a call from Kevin. I almost didn't answer it, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hey," he said awkwardly. Can we talk?" "About what?" I asked, already bracing myself for another guilt trip. I wanted to apologize. For everything. That was unexpected." "Go on," I said carefully. Kevin sighed. "I know I haven't been great. And I know Sophia put a lot on you. I haven't handled things the way I should have, and neither has she. It's just been hard." I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to accept the apology, but another part was still angry. "What's your plan now?" I asked. "Because, Kevin, I can't keep bailing you out. You have to step up." "I know," he said. "That's actually why I called. I got a job." That caught me off guard. "You did?" "Yeah. It's not glamorous, but it's something. Warehouse work. Night shifts." For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of respect for him. "Good. That's good, Kevin. I hope it works out." "Thanks," he said quietly. "And about the rent thing. I told Sophia it was a bad idea to ask you. I just didn't know how to stop her." I wasn't sure if I believed him, but at least he was taking some responsibility. "Well, it's done now," I said. "Let's just move on." I hung up, feeling a little better about the whole thing, but the peace didn't last long. The next morning, I checked the footage from my door camera and saw someone I wasn't expecting, my mom. She was the one who left the notes. I couldn't believe it. My own mother had been harassing me, trying to guilt me into giving in. And the last note, the one that said, "You'll regret this," that stung the most. I called her right away. "Why the hell did you leave notes at my door?" She didn't even try to deny it. "Because you're stubborn," she said. "And I thought if you wouldn't listen to reason, maybe you'd listen to your conscience." "My conscience?" I snapped. "Do you even listen to yourself? You've been sneaking around, harassing me in my own home. How is that supposed to make me want to help anyone?" She tried to backpedal, but I wasn't having it. "You crossed the line," I said. "Don't ever do that again." That was the last straw for me. I decided to have no contact with her for a while. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. And as usual, I was right. I thought cutting off contact with my mom would give me some peace, but it didn't. Less than a week later, I received a text from Sophia. "We need to talk. It's important. Please come over." I almost ignored it, but something about the tone, inviting, not demanding, made me pause. Against my better judgment, I decided to see what was going on. When I arrived at her apartment, Sophia opened the door, her face pale and drawn. Kevin was sitting on the couch, staring at his hands. The mood was completely different from our last encounter. No smugness, no guilt. Just tension. "What's going on?" I asked cautiously. Sophia hesitated, then blurted out, "Kevin's job didn't work out." I sighed, already regretting coming. "Okay, so? What does this have to do with me?" "It's not just that," she said quickly. "There's another problem." Then Kevin spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I owe money." That got my attention. "What kind of money?" He hesitated, glancing at Sophia, who looked like she wanted to crawl under the couch. Finally, he mumbled, "Credit card debt. And a personal loan. It's bad." "How bad?" I pressed. Sophia squirmed. 30 grand. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. 30 grand? How the hell did you get that much? Kevin finally looked up at me, his face full of shame. "The wedding. And some other stuff. I thought I could handle it, but..." Sophia interrupted, her voice shaking. "The creditors keep calling. And now, someone came to the apartment." That stopped me cold. "What do you mean, someone?" Kevin looked miserable. "A guy. A big guy. Said if I didn't start paying, things would get ugly." I ran my hand over my face, trying to process this. "So you're telling me you're up to your eyeballs in debt, and now you've got loan sharks breathing down your neck?" Kevin nodded. Sophia looked like she was going to cry. "We didn't know who else to call," she said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So what, you want me to bail you out too? Is that it?" "No," Kevin said quickly. "I mean, not exactly. I just..." "Kevin!" Sophia cut him off, her voice sharp. She turned to me, her face desperate. "We're not asking you to pay it off. We just need help dealing with them." "Deal with them? What am I supposed to do? Play middleman with a bunch of loan sharks?" Before they could answer, there was a loud knock on the door. We all froze. "Who is it?" Sophia called out, her voice shaking. No answer. Another knock, this one louder. Kevin stood up, his face pale. "It's him," he whispered. I couldn't believe it. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. Before anyone could stop me, I went to the door and yanked it open. Standing there was a guy who looked like he was moonlighting as a bouncer, a huge, bald, tattooed wall of muscle. He looked at me, clearly confused. "You're not Kevin," he said flatly. "Nope," I said. "But I'm the guy who's about to tell you to back off." The guy raised an eyebrow in amusement. "Is that so?" Behind me, I could hear Sophia whispering desperately. "What are you doing?" I ignored her. "Look, I don't know what Kevin owes you, but showing up here and intimidating people isn't going to get you paid any faster. So why don't you take a walk?" The guy smirked, then took a deliberate step forward, forcing me to step back. "I'm not here to argue, pal," I'm here for what I'm owed. Are you going to pay up, or should I start collecting in some other way? Before I could answer, Kevin suddenly blurted out. Wait. I'll figure it out. Just give me more time. The guy looked past me at Kevin, clearly unimpressed. That's what you said last time. The clock is ticking. I was about to say something else when the guy leaned closer and said in a low voice, You might want to stay out of this, buddy. Things could get messy. Then he turned and walked away. The moment the door closed, Sophia burst into tears. Kevin just sank back onto the couch, looking completely defeated. I stood there, furious. What the hell have you gotten yourself into? Kevin didn't answer, and Sophia just kept sobbing. I knew I should have left right then and there. After the loan shark left, I stayed for a few minutes, pacing their tiny apartment, while Sophia cried and Kevin sat like a statue. I couldn't believe how deep they'd gotten themselves into this mess. 30 grand in debt, threats from loan sharks, it was unreal. But at the same time, I knew this was their mess, not mine. All right, I finally said, breaking the tense silence. Here's the deal. I'm not paying your debt. Not 1 cent. You got yourselves into this, and you're going to have to get yourselves out. Sophia looked up at me, her face blotchy from crying. But we don't know what to do. Yes, you do, I snapped. You start by taking responsibility. Kevin, you need to grow up. You're married now. You want to protect your wife? Start acting like it. Kevin opened his mouth to protest, but thought better of it. Instead, he just nodded. I'll help you once, I said, holding up a finger. One time. And not with money. If you're willing to put in the work, I'll give you something that can actually help you get out of this hole. Kevin finally met my eyes. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, wondering if I was making a mistake. I know a guy, Dave. He runs a private car service for executives. It's not glamorous, but the pay is solid and the tips can be great. He's always looking for reliable drivers. If you can handle long hours and late nights, I'll give him a call and vouch for you. Kevin's eyes widened. You'd do that? I said I'd help you once. I repeated. Don't make me regret it. Sophia started to thank me, but I held up my hand. Save it. This is the only lifeline you're getting from me. If you blow it, it's on you. To Kevin's credit, he went through with it. The next day, I called Dave and explained the situation. Dave was hesitant. His reputation depended on hiring people who were trustworthy and professional, but he agreed to give Kevin a chance based on my recommendation. The job wasn't easy. Kevin had to work nights, weekends, and holidays. He spent hours driving around wealthy executives, dealing with their attitudes and demands. But for the first time, he wasn't complaining. He was earning. Within a month, Kevin was making more money than he had ever made before. Between his salary and tips, he was able to start paying off his debts. I even heard from Sophia that he'd personally apologized to the loan shark and negotiated a more reasonable repayment plan. Sophia got a part-time job herself, working as a receptionist at a local clinic. It wasn't much, but it was a step in the right direction. For the first time in their marriage, they were actually working as a team instead of relying on each other to solve their problems. A few months later, I got a text from Kevin. Thanks for what you did. I owe you a lot. I didn't respond right away, but later, when Sophia invited me over for dinner, I saw the difference. Their place was still small, but it was clean and organized. They seemed calmer, more at ease. Kevin even thanked me personally, which was a first. You were right, he said at dinner. I needed to step up. And I'm glad I did. I just nodded. Good. Keep it up. At the end of the night, Sophia pulled me aside and gave me a hug. I'm sorry about everything, she said. I should have listened to you before. You've always been there for me, even when I didn't deserve it. It wasn't an easy journey for her, and I wasn't going to pretend that all was forgiven overnight. But watching them take responsibility and rebuild their lives made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I'd done the right thing by drawing the line when I did. I left their apartment that night feeling lighter than I had in months. For once, I wasn't just cleaning up someone else's mess, I was watching them clean up their own.